Connection established.
Mr.B and friends, truth seekers. Have you ever experienced something so strange and unexplainable that it stayed with you for years? Picture this. The year is 1979. A group of friends and I are on an adventure of a lifetime, fishing, scuba diving, camping in the exotic Gulf of Carpentaria. As we depart, we make a spontaneous decision to detour to Cairns, Queensland. This little detour adds a couple of extra days to our journey, but the prospect of new experiences makes it worthwhile. In the middle of nowhere, about a day-and-a-half drive away from Cairns, we set up camp under a scorching 42 degrees Celsius heat, the humidity heavy and sticky. The only light we have comes from 5 kerosene Tilly lamps and a small gas cooker. The night sky is crystal clear, the silence profound. My friend Colin strums his guitar, Derek cooks, and I'm just enjoying my warm Jack Daniels. Suddenly, Derek breaks the silence. "Do you guys hear that?" he asks. We both respond, "Hear what?" "The dead silence," Derek replies. The silence was spooky because usually at night you can hear the crickets. The gentle hum of the nocturnal wilderness had always been a comforting soundtrack to our camping trips. But that night, beneath the star-studded sky of the Australian outback, the familiar chorus of crickets was eerily absent. Imagine being in the heart of the tropics, where the nights are usually filled with a symphony of sounds from countless unseen creatures. Then all of a sudden, the concert stops, as if someone had pressed the mute button on nature itself. The stillness was so profound, it was as if even the air we breathed was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The three of us, Colin, Derek, and I, sat in our camp, each lost in our thoughts. The silence was so loud that even the sloshing of warm Jack Daniels in my glass seemed intrusive. Derek was the first to break the silence. "Do you guys hear that?" he asked. We both responded, "Hear what?" "The dead silence," Derek replied. His voice echoed in the void, amplifying the uncanniness of the situation. In the midst of this strange silence, we noticed something even stranger. A glow began to emanate from the distance, painting a faint orange hue against the dark silhouette of the bushland. Was it a bushfire, as Colin speculated, or something else entirely? The glow seemed too consistent, too purposeful to be a random act of nature. Our eyes, now used to the darkness, began to discern shapes within the glow. It was almost hypnotic, drawing our gazes and deepening the suspense that hung in the air. As we stared into the distance, the glow started to move. It was slow, almost imperceptible, and completely silent, just like the night around us. Not long after the glowing light passed over our heads, accompanied by 2 smaller objects, not a sound could be heard. Everything was dead still and quiet. The silence that had once seemed spooky now felt downright otherworldly. It was as if we had stepped into a realm where the rules of nature no longer applied. And little did we know, this was just the beginning of a night we would never forget. The objects were moving at a snail pace very slowly, as if it was looking for something. These were no ordinary objects. The largest of the 3 had a flat, kite-shaped form, spanning roughly 100 feet in length and 40 feet in width. It hovered about 200 feet above our heads, casting an eerie glow that lit up the surrounding bushland. Beneath it, the luminescent glow had a peculiar, heat-rippled shimmer, akin to the way light dances on the surface of water. Accompanying this colossal object were two smaller ones, glowing orbs of light that were difficult to size up due to their radiant glow. However, if we were to make a wild guess, we'd say they were about 10 feet in diameter. They moved in unison with the larger object, like celestial bodyguards escorting their king through the night sky. While the sight of these objects was fascinating, it was the physical changes we experienced that truly baffled us. The hair on our heads began to stand on end, much like the effect you'd see when playing with a Tesla coil. This, coupled with the radiant glow of the objects and the eerie silence, painted an otherworldly scene that was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Just as quickly as they had appeared, the objects began to fade into the distance. Their soft glow dwindled until it was no more than a speck of light against the vast, star-spangled canvas of the night sky. Then, as if a switch had been flipped, the objects disappeared altogether, leaving us in the pitch darkness of the Australian outback once more. The silence was broken by the familiar sound of crickets chirping, their rhythmic song echoing through the bushland like a lullaby. The hair on our heads settled back down, and the heavy air seemed to lift. It was as if the objects had never been there at all. After an hour, everything went back to normal, even the chirping of the crickets. Yet, we knew what we had witnessed was far from normal. It was a mystery that would stay with us for the rest of our journey and beyond. Early next morning, about 5 a.m., we were packing up the camping equipment, our bodies still tingling from the night's experience. The world was just beginning to wake up, its first light casting long shadows that danced around the campsite. A sense of eerie calm settled among us, as if the bushland was holding its breath, waiting for us to recount the events of the night before. But we said nothing. Each of us was lost in our own thoughts, our minds still grappling with the unexplainable phenomena we had witnessed. The lack of sleep was evident in our sluggish movements. We were all running on fumes, the adrenaline from the night's events having given way to exhaustion. Yet there was a sense of urgency in our actions. We couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched, of being intruders in a world that was not meant for us. So we worked in silence, our shared experience creating an unspoken bond between us. With the camping equipment finally secured on the boat we were towing around on a dual-wheel trailer, we set off on the dirt track. About 5 hours into our journey, we encountered a military roadblock. 6 soldiers stood guard, their stern gazes scanning our faces for any signs of deceit. They asked us why we were off the main highway, their American accents stark against the thick Australian bush. We told them we were taking a shortcut to Cairns, hoping to get some serious fishing done before returning to Sydney. One of the guards asked if we had seen anything unusual. The question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken implications. Colin quickly replied no, his voice steady despite the rapid beating of his heart. The guard in charge warned us not to stray off the track, citing a military exercise in progress. It's best we didn't say anything because after what we had seen the night before, maybe it's something we shouldn't have seen. The encounter left us with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear. We were stepping into a world that was far more complex and mysterious than we could ever have imagined. Derek, Colin, and I arrived at Port Douglas, and we talked about what happened. We mulled over the events of that night, the silence, the glow, the massive objects hovering just above our heads. The memory of our hair standing on end sent shivers down our spines even in the heat of the tropics. We realized we had witnessed something extraordinary, something out of this world. We decided then, in the quiet comfort of our camaraderie, to keep the encounter to ourselves. We were 3 friends who had stumbled upon a secret so profound it could change the way we, or anybody for that matter, viewed the universe. We feared ridicule, disbelief, perhaps even backlash. But more than that, we treasured the bond that this shared experience had forged among us. It was our secret, our story, and we chose to keep it that way. Over the years, this decision has come to shape our lives in ways we could never have anticipated. Our encounter with the unknown has sparked in us a thirst for knowledge, a curiosity about the universe that goes beyond the everyday mundane, It's led us down paths we might not have otherwise taken, into fields of study and careers that reflect our newfound fascination. We've become more open-minded, more willing to accept the existence of phenomena that defy conventional understanding. We've learned to question, to probe, to never take anything at face value. This encounter, this shared secret, has become a part of our identity, an integral part of who we are. And yet, while the encounter has changed us, life has also gone on. We continued our trip down the coast to Cairns, and yes, we had a fantastic 4 days of fishing on the Great Barrier Reef. But the encounter in the middle of nowhere stayed with us, changing our perspective forever. We were no longer just 3 friends on a fishing trip. We were 3 friends who had touched the edge of the unknown, and in doing so, discovered a little more about ourselves. Thank Toy for joining us. Don't forget to tickle the like and subscribe button. Till next time.
Have you any idea how successful censorship is on TV? Don't know the answer? Successful, isn't it?